Thank you so much, Kathy. My name is Diana Bray, and I'm running for U.S. Senate. It's always incredibly powerful coming up to this community, and I come up here a lot. I have this simultaneous feeling of incredible joy because it's so beautiful, mixed with incredible despair. The pollution, the ozone alerts, the way in which this community has been impacted so severely by oil and gas industry. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been working in mental health for 35 years. The reason that I decided to get into this Senate race is because I'm alarmed about the climate crisis. We have an F rating, I'm sure many of you know, here on many Front Range communities. Our oil and gas activity is out of control. There's also problems with vehicular traffic as well, but the great majority of the pollution is because of oil and gas. The way that I got interested in the climate crisis was 10 years ago. My Australian husband and I were in Australia, and we learned that they were going to be building 3 enormous liquefied natural gas plants. And what they did was they took a small little fishing harbor, they dredged it, and dropped the spoil on the Great Barrier Reef, and then they built those 3 plants right on my husband's favorite island in the world, a gorgeous island just off the coast of Australia. Half of it's national park, half of it now is industry. So my husband, who is like Crocodile Dundee, said, go, when we get home, I want you to find out what's going on. He doesn't do internet, right? So we came home, back to Colorado, and in researching what had happened in Australia, we learned that Colorado had turned into a petro state. That was 10 years ago. I got involved then, and honestly, I'm not patting myself on the back a lot because we have hardly moved the needle. You all in Broomfield know what's going on here. Fracking in people's backyards, oil and gas activity that has absolutely no restraints. The idea of regulation is a complete fallacy. I'm the only candidate for U.S. Senate that is advocating for a ban on fracking. There might be some others, but no one who has worked in climate activism. I know what we have ahead of us. And honestly, I'm tired of the Democrats and others trying to have it both ways and being apologetic about this. I worked for several years on trying to attempt to regulate this industry. I worked on 112. Who here voted yes for 112, the safer setback measure that would have kept fracking away from homes, schools, and hospitals? Many of you. Some of you perhaps did not. I was a huge advocate for finding a way to keep fracking out of our backyards because, as we all know here, the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission has never denied a permit. How is this industry regulated if permits have never been denied? So it was incredibly discouraging when we didn't pass it, but we did get 1.1 million votes in favor, and they spent 50 million, we spent 1 million. We were able to fundraise 1 million against 50 million. I think we did pretty well. I think there's tremendous progressive energy around addressing the climate crisis, especially in communities like this. I feel that the oil and gas industry has a stranglehold around our necks. It's a heavily subsidized industry. It's like a Ponzi scheme. It's going down. I would prefer it went down earlier rather than later. And I think we need to start finding a way to stop these extreme extractive measures because we cannot survive them. We simply cannot survive them as a people, as a planet. I want to talk a little bit about some of my other interests and other passions. I've been involved in mental health for 35 years. We also have a crisis of identity in this country. Tens of thousands of people every year dying from opiates. Tens of thousands of people every year dying from self-inflicted suicide and self-inflicted gunshot. We have a serious gun violence issue as well in this country, a serious gun violence problem. I think there's a lot that the federal government can do, and there's a lot that state governments can also do to minimize these egregious harms. I am advocating for a Medicare for all system. I believe that it would be better to have the insurance companies out of the picture. I know this is a little bit controversial. I know some people prefer to have insurance companies in the picture. I believe that they are profiting off of our injuries, accidents, and illnesses to the tune of billions of dollars. And I don't think that system works for most. I think that there's a way we can move to a system that benefits most people rather than just the top 1%. And I think we need to move toward that system in order to have a healthy society. I know that a lot of people are really traumatized by what is going on at the moment. I was talking to a friend of mine right before driving up here today, and we were talking about how things seem worse than what we could have imagined. Do other people have that feeling, that we're experiencing trauma on a lot of different levels? And I think the way that I cope with that, personally, is by staying active. And coming to meetings like this, I can tell you, is very, very helpful to me in my own process, because I can see that people are involved, people are trying to find solutions, and we have got to find a way to stop the division. We've got to find a way to be whole as a country. I'm also interested in reducing inequality. I want to find a way to protect undocumented immigrants. I want to find a way to protect asylum seekers. We have a situation now where there are going to be millions of climate refugees. The crisis in Syria started over a 5-year drought, destabilized the entire area. As you know, we have people coming up from Central America because they can't survive, they can't grow food. Bangladesh is going to be underwater. 3 weeks ago, the 6th largest city in India ran out of water. These crises related and connected to climate are going to continue, and they're going to get stronger. So how do we address it? The federal government needs to stop exporting our fossil fuels, needs to stop funding the oil and gas industry, and start transitioning to supporting a clean energy economy that also has a just transition. This is essential. We need to close the loopholes that allow the oil and gas industry to do as they like all over this country. And we need to stop drilling on public land. As we were trying to find this really complicated building, because there was no address, and I see you're going to get a beautiful new senior center and community center next door, I noticed this incredible swath of public open space. Really beautiful driving in here. And I thought, that area is at risk. That area could be drilled, as you all know, because that's exactly what happened in Broomfield, right? I did try to bring attention to what was going on in Broomfield a few months ago. I'm trying to highlight different cities. And when I highlighted Broomfield, wow, the trolls came after me, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So, that's fine, bring it on, because that means that they're threatened by me. Good, good. We need people standing up against this industry. We need people standing up against Big Pharma. We need people standing up about all these corporations and industries that have no positive place in our communities, our world anymore. That goes for the NRA too. I'm a mom who's involved in Moms Demand Action. They now have more constituents than the NRA. I invite you to look at my website, dianaforcolorado.com. I talk about gun prevention, gun violence prevention, and if you go to my site, you'll see that I'm advocating for the very strictest measures. We have got to take on the NRA and do so unapologetically. It is unconscionable that we have an entire country of children who are fearful to go to school and their parents are fearful about dropping them off. We've got to take out the NRA. They should not have that much power. I want to go much further than common sense gun laws. I want to do every imaginable measure to reduce gun violence. So all of this is all tangled up in one another. Our health care, the way in which corporations have taken over. We have to be bold, and we also have to be unified. I'd like to say that the other US Senate candidates are amazing. We are having an incredible time, actually, working together, doing forums together, many, many events. And I feel pretty strongly that I personally, and I know others, will support whoever the winner is. Some people think, oh my gosh, there's 10 people running for US Senate. Fantastic. You guys get to figure out who is best positioned to take out Cory Gardner, and once they get to the Senate, what they're going to advocate for. That's a gift. Democrats often worry about infighting and do start to infight. That's how Democrats lose elections. We have an incredible group here. I personally think it's going to be a woman. There's never been a woman US Senator from Colorado. I thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so, so much for being here and being part of the democratic process. I would love to earn your support. I'd also be happy to answer questions if time permits. My name is Diana Bray. Thank you so much. 5 minutes for questions.
Okay. So you talked about immigration from the perspective of climate change. We are going to have more immigration and more climate refugees. What are your policies on helping immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, now, seeing as 2 days ago we had 700 families ripped apart because of aggressive policies? And I guess the base question to this is, would you support abolishing ICE?
I'm a total supporter of abolishing ICE, and we have to have serious immigration reform. I would also like to see communities actually protecting the undocumented immigrants who are already here. My family came over in the late 1890s. I'm Jewish, and they were escaping Eastern Europe, pogroms. And my family experienced not so much a welcoming, but a sort of protection. Now that hasn't always been the case. The United States has not always welcomed, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. I would like to go further and find a way to protect the undocumented immigrants who are here, and the ones who are seeking asylum. Let's treat them like human beings. We all came here as immigrants, and that needs to be acknowledged. We're also on stolen land.
We don't have a mic to pass around. Could you summarize the questions before you answer?
He would like me to summarize the questions with the mic. I get this question a lot, as you can imagine. I've never run for anything, and actually in this situation, I think it's a huge advantage. I'm not beholden to anyone. I can say as I like. I'm actually from Washington, D.C., so I understand, and I've spent probably almost half my life, 30 years there. My parents are still there. I understand the political world, and although I've never been part of it, I think it gives me a huge advantage. And I think about Trump, who had never been in the political world, and he is absolutely crushing it in the most horrific ways, but he is crushing it. We all have to admit that. So I think this idea that you have had to be in politics, yes, of course, that's been the path for many people who think about running for US Senate. And I'm just doing something quite different. My pathway was really different. I see all of this from a quite different perspective. But thanks for your question. Did I ever run for political office or be in politics? No, I haven't.
I was watching everything on CNN this last week, and I got concerned about the NRA, and I looked up on the website to find out how much they donate to each senator and each representative. And it was really amazing. I think it should be printed in every newspaper about how much each one of these senators is getting from the NRA.
Yes, the comment is how much the NRA is funding our electeds. This is something that I think is a serious issue all around. How can it be that electeds are paid by the industry that then expect them to support them once they get into office?
That's right.
This is undemocratic in my mind, because the wealthier organizations then get to influence policy. Is that a democracy? I don't think so. So I would like also to see campaign election reform. I would like to see campaign finance reform. And I believe that Cory Gardner has taken over $3.8 million from the NRA. I saw Cory Gardner actually 2 days ago. I was in Yuma I was invited to the Yuma County Fair, and I went up and introduced myself. He doesn't worry me at all. I just went straight up to him and started talking to him. The day before, I was in Elbert County, and I went straight up to the Republican float. We were there for an hour right next to them. I had an hour-long conversation. I don't agree with his policies. I don't agree that it's okay to support the NRA. I think you have blood on your hands when you do that. I also don't think it's okay to support these private, for-profit prisons and also incarcerating people, separating children. Some of these children will never see their parents again. They've been lost. I don't know if people are reading this, what was coming out today. Some of these children have been completely lost. So Cory Gardner is someone who I think lacks empathy and understanding that these are human beings, and he's willing to take money from these industries that actually are tremendously harmful to all of us.
Any other questions?
Thank you so, so much.